Today on CityCast Austin, 50 years ago, a little show called Austin City Limits premiered on TV sets nationwide, broadcasting a Willie Nelson concert shot in a studio at UT. Eric Graham auditioned to work a camera, but failed, and years later got hired. So now he's here to share his story and his view on Austin's music scene with me. It's Monday, December 9th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Eric Graham, an Austin-based director and cinematographer, and also camera operator. Thank you for being here with me today, Eric.
Sure, glad to be here.
So I want to get right into this because I'm super excited. ACL TV is turning 50. And when you started working for the show, did you think that it would still be around now?
It didn't occur to me that 50 was on the horizon. I started working on the show in season 39, so 11 years ago.
Wow, okay.
It's well known that Austin City Limits is the longest running music television program ever anywhere in history. It's maybe not as well known that neck and neck with Austin City Limits is Saturday Night Live.
Give me some context.
It does, yeah. Saturday Night Live's been on a long time, and so has ACL.
So let's go back, actually. Tell us about how you got into shooting footage of Austin musicians.
So I'm from Pittsburgh. I came here to go to graduate school, and my intention was to go into the then very, very new field of computer animation. And there were two schools that I found, graduate schools, where there were faculty who were interested in making images, motion images with computers. One was the University of Texas, and one was UCLA. Decided to come to Austin because there were a couple of live recording records that I really liked that were recorded at the Armadillo World Headquarters.
Nice.
And I thought it would be fun to live in the town where the Armadillo World Headquarters was. And in fact, it has been fun. So I came here. I managed to get a job at Channel 36 as a director. And I mostly did commercials for their clients, car dealers and restaurants and stuff like that. So that gave me access to video equipment, and I'm a music fan, and I was spending a lot of time at various clubs, seeing many, many great bands in the early 80s. There was a band that I really liked, a band called Standing Waves, and I thought, well, I have access to all this video equipment. I could do a music video for these guys. And my partner at Channel 36, good friend, his name is Tom Taylor, and another friend, Tim Jones, decided, sure, let's do a music video for this new single that the Standing Waves just released.
Nice.
So we did. As it turned out, that video went on to be the first Austin-produced music video that ran in rotation on MTV, which was kind of cool, because at the time, MTV was like a big deal. And so then I did some more videos for other bands, and eventually, we thought, well, we should be making money at this.
During that time, were you aware of ACL TV?
Oh, of course. Sure, yeah. When my grandmother found out I was coming to Austin for graduate school, she said, Austin, that's where they make that show, Austin City Limits. And at the time, ACL had been on the air for 5 years. And I didn't know what Austin City Limits was. And she said, yeah, it's great. They have this guy down there. His name's Willie Nelson. And he's really great. He has these great songs. He's really terrific. And you should get a job on that show.
At that point, had it gotten to be, was it this big deal? What was the reputation?
It was a nationally syndicated show. I don't know how many stations it was on, but I mean, it was on in Pittsburgh. My grandmother was watching it. But it was, 5 years into its existence. I don't think it had established itself as, probably starting to establish itself as, a show to watch if you were interested in that kind of music.
What kind of artists did they have? Was it more on the like Willie Nelson,
Yes, yeah,
Americana
Willie
kind
Nelson,
of?
Asleep at the Wheel,
Gotcha.
country,
Okay.
Americana,
Got it.
outlaw country. But as it turned out, the next weekend, after my grandmother said that, the next weekend, Willie was the guest on Saturday Night Live. And I happened to be watching it. And I was like, oh, that's that guy that my grandmother told me about. And I was really taken by him, I mean, the music was great. And I remember watching him perform, and the camera did a very slow zoom into his face. He was singing Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, and he had a tear in his eye. And I thought, wow, that guy really means it. He's really into that song. Came to Austin, went to UT, and because I had done the environmental series, I got an opportunity to audition to be a camera operator on Austin City Limits. And I won't tell you the details, but I was horrible. It was just awful. They didn't even have to tell me that I sucked because it was
You knew.
obvious.
Yeah.
I considered myself to be a pretty good cameraman, having made films in college and stuff like that. But being a single camera film style camera operator or director of photography is very different than being
Right.
an operator on a studio pedestal on a multi-camera show like Austin City Limits. And so, as you get into the community, you meet people in the community, and a lot of the people I met were camera operators on Austin City Limits. So I would get tickets to go see shows. So I saw a lot of shows in between failing my audition and eventually getting to work on the show. But it became clear that you don't just get a job on Austin City Limits TV. The people who work on that show stay on that show for a long time.
Yeah,
So
I would imagine.
I never really tried again to get that gig. I was doing my gigs, commercials, corporate stuff, documentaries, stuff like that, and then going to see the shows when the shows would happen. But when the Moody Theater opened, when Austin City Limits moved to the Moody Theater, a friend of mine was involved in some comedy shows for Comedy Central and asked me to be one of the camera operators on that show. And there was another group that did projects at the Moody Theater called Stage Side Productions. And I did a bunch of stuff with Stage Side. And so the production manager at KLRU knew me, knew that I was, I wasn't terrible. I'd finally figured out how to operate a camera, And one day she called me and said, hey, we have an Austin City Limits taping next week, and a camera operator can't make it. Are you available? Would you like to, work on that show? And I said, sure. Well, by that time, to me, it was like just another gig. And that episode was Portugal the Man. So I'm on that show was assigned to be one of the handheld camera operators. As the show was about to start, I had my camera on my shoulder and I was back by the drums, and all of a sudden I thought, holy cow, I'm working on Austin City Limits. Grandma,
Eureka!
It took 35 years, but I'm finally working on Austin City Limits. So it's been great. The show is fabulous, and
man, that's so many full circle moments for you. It's kind of great.
It is.
So after almost 40 years, in 2011, ACL TV moved, like you said, to the Moody Theater and off UT campus. How else do you think, physically it was a move, right? Like a move to this theater. How do you think it changed the show? Like, how did this physical move change or affect the show? Because it seems to me like production value was just like, but maybe that's just from a outside weird.
That's
sort of
probably true. Maybe not so much in terms of the camera work.
Fair.
Because there's a very distinctive style.
Yeah.
Of the camera work on Austin City Limits. There's really not another music show that looks like Austin City Limits.
Agree.
But I think the bigger space certainly gave the opportunity for much more varied lighting complements to the show. So it looks like a bigger show now than it did.
Yeah.
But they were very careful when they designed the theater to allow for a way to make the show look like it used to look when it was in Studio 6A. In Studio 6A, the audience was, I don't know, it was like 300 or 400 people.
Yeah.
And so in the Moody, they made sure that there could be a standing audience on the floor of about 300 or 400 people. There's also several thousand other ones up in the mezzanine and the balcony, but right down there where the action is, it's very much like the show used to be in 6A. Mm-hmm. So when the crowd cheers, it's a 3,000 person cheer, not a 300 person cheer. But I think the big difference is the range of music that's on there now. Mm-hmm. And that didn't start when they moved to the Moody. It started quite a while ago, and that's a factor of Terry Lacona and his team broadening their horizons. And at some point they're like, yeah, we love this outlaw country stuff, but the music of Austin is a much more varied range of music, and we should start trying to more represent the different kinds of music that are in Austin and come to Austin because of what Austin is.
Hey y'all, it's Nikki with a friendly heads up that it's time for you to start making plans for New Year's Eve. But don't worry, I've got a great idea. Head just southwest of town to the Omni Barton Creek Resort and Spa and ring in 2025 in the Texas Hill Country. Their amazing restaurant, Blind Salamander Kitchen and Bar, is serving up a multi-course wine paired dinner, and reservations are still available. After dinner, the adults can enjoy Snowdown, a magical snow show that turns Lady Bird Lawn into a winter wonderland. And the kids can hop on over to the kids camp, where the Omni Barton Creek staff will keep them entertained with arts and crafts, games, and movies. Now, the best part, there will be a champagne toast at midnight. Y'all, it's basically magical festivities for everyone. Find all the details by Googling Omni Barton Creek and make dinner reservations by searching for Blind Salamander Kitchen and Bar on Open Table. And Happy New Year, y'all! So I want to go back to what you said about ACL's unique shooting style. Talk a little bit more about what is so different about it and what is so special about it.
Well, I think when you see a normal music show, live music, multi-camera live music, the cameras that are in front of the stage are at the back of the room. And they're zoomed in to show the singer or the guitar player or whatever. Photographically, there's a difference in the way something looks and feels if you're far away and zoomed in versus close up and zoomed out. Close up and zoomed out feels like you're right there. Far away and zoomed in, you can see the person's face, you can still see the expression on their face, but the compression isn't like what our eyes normally see. So it doesn't look like what is in your brain when you're at the show. But if you're at a club and you're right in front of the stage and the musician is right there, that wide angle lens 6 feet from the performer is the way it looks to your brain when you're actually at a live show.
Right.
And I think that's, for me as a viewer, that's the big difference between Austin City Limits and anything else. It's a signature part of the Austin City Limits look. I think a lot of people, when they talk about Austin City Limits, they refer to it as an intimate show. Austin City Limits looks at the performer for a while. There's not really a mandate to cut every 3 measures or every 2 measures.
Yeah.
The show also has the confidence, I would say, to say the story here is Bonnie Raitt singing. And so we don't need to cut away to the drums and the guitar and everything right now. Let's just look at Bonnie, because if you were in the room, that's what you would be looking at.
Right. So I have had the privilege of being backstage at the Moody Theater a couple of times. it seems to me like a well-oiled machine, and it makes sense that it would be. It's been 50 years, but what do you think that people would be most surprised to hear about the production of the show? Like, because to me, it's like, even I've attended the show several times. I've been backstage, and it just still seems like, oh man, this is, they have figured it out.
It is really a well organized machine. It starts early in the morning, 6 or 7 a.m., when band trucks arrive and they offload their stuff and take it up in the freight elevator and start. The night before the stage has been set, the band puts the stuff on the stage. Everything really happens in the sequence that it normally happens. And mostly it works great. One thing they might be surprised at is when they were building the theater, it came up in a meeting that it's going to be a non-smoking facility. And I think it was Freddie Fletcher, who's Willie's nephew and was one of the people who was instrumental in creating the Moody Theater. He said, well, that's not going to fly, because if you want Willie to ever play here, he's got to have some place to have some privacy.
Yeah.
And so they made, it's a backstage thing, but there's a door to a little porch out there.
I love that.
There's a sign out there that says Willie's Place. That's Willie's porch, and it gets used from time to time.
I love that. I played a show once where we opened for Morris Day and the Time, and I thought for sure that like they would be sequestered somewhere and where our paths would never cross. But then you get backstage and it feels like everybody is just kind of like, they definitely had their own area, but we it's like everybody's just kind of in there together and mixed together, and our paths crossed, and they were so kind, and we got to meet them. And it seems like both times that I've been back there, that seems to be how it seems to be, a very family kind of like, there is no, this person is too special, they have to be sequestered away so no one ever meets them. It seemed like a very open environment. Do you think that's right?
I think that's generally true. Yeah.
Very Austin vibe.
Yeah. And it might be that way everywhere, in Nashville, maybe not LA, I don't know. But most people who play Austin City Limits are very happy to be there.
Yeah.
Because it's a signature achievement to be asked to be on the longest running music show in the music history.
Yeah.
So whether it's people who have been on the show 5 or 6 times before, it's like, it's good to be back. If it's somebody who's never been on the show before, it's like, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
There are some times when the artist, for whatever reason, is a more private person. And so, there have been times when the crew has been instructed, stay away from the dressing rooms, don't go in this hallway, but mostly, I'd say 95% of the time, it's very much like a family thing.
Yeah.
Great to meet you, or good to see you again, stuff like that.
I love that.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
But okay, so let me take a minute and say, you played on a show with Morris Day and the Time.
I danced. It was like a Halloween extravaganza, and there was like aerialists, and there was cabaret, and I'm in the cabaret, so it made no sense.
Wow.
But it was incredible.
That's great.
Yeah, and it was like this crazy hodgepodge Austin show that someone produced and invited a bunch of creatives, and then Morris Day and the Time came out and played like, a 1.5 hour show at the end of the night with aerialists on stage, and called everybody on stage with them. And I just thought it was such an interesting thing, because for me, Morris Day and the Time is a big deal. And so
me too.
Yeah. So to be able to just like hang out with them and eat chicken wings with them was, you know what I mean? I was just like, where else would this happen if not at ACL? Like, it seemed really surreal. I mean, it's one of the best times I've ever had in my entire life. And so I'm curious, you're now decades of working like in the music industry here. What changes have you seen? I mean, we've all seen lots of changes, but specifically like for the music coming in and out of ACL Live, or ACL TV, what changes have you seen in music? Maybe that you're excited about or that you're like, never saw that coming.
Um, well, so in my early days here, my personal taste tended towards new wave, early 80s, new wave pop, that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really listening to music like was on Austin City Limits at the time. As things happen in your life, like got married, had kids. Have kids, you don't go out as much. So, for a good 10 years, I sort of checked out of the music scene. But eventually, you know, time freed up again and I started doing it more. The variety of stuff that I get the opportunity to be exposed to is great. I would say locally, like musicians that I listen to, local Austin bands, there's a really the DIY movement. Whenever that started,
Yeah.
when somebody could make a really great record in their bedroom,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think opened up the music scene in Austin to have a real blossoming of different kinds of stuff because people who had good ideas but not much money could, for a couple $1,000s, they could make their thing. And because I'm old, I'm not tuned into like, who's the latest person that everybody's paying attention to. Chapel Roan, for instance, right? I knew Chapel Roan was a thing, but I wasn't really listening to her music. Um, and then I was on this, I work on Austin City Limits Festival
I
as
saw
well. And
that.
that was my stage, was
You
this,
were right in front.
I was at the end of the stage thrust, so every time she came down that stage thrust, it was like that was my shot. I knew she was a thing, but I hadn't really had time to find out what the thing was. And so being involved in a show like ACL TV or ACL Fest gives me the chance to like finally go, oh, that's the thing that makes her so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and also being able to watch the development of an artist. During COVID, I directed the photography on a bunch of live streams. And I met artists who were not at the beginning of their career, but they were still germinating kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And over the 3 years, 4 years since then, several of them I've gone to see, like, every 4 months I go see their show. And it's been really great to see them either fine tune what they were doing then or move from there to a little bit different, a little bit different, a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious about ACL Live's future because to your point, we are in the age of like TikTok and Instagram, and you can create bomb music from your bedroom, pop it up on TikTok or Instagram, and then there you go. Do you think that there is still a need for this kind of show on TV, even in this age of just like fast entertainment?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I'm part of the social media consumers of the world. And I like that. I like to see a little 60-second clip of somebody's beat that they made in their bedroom.
Yeah.
But that's not the same as spending 30 minutes or an hour with either an artist that you really like but have never had the chance to see, or you've seen 50 times and you want to see them 51 times, or an artist that you've never heard of before that's like, holy cow, who is this? This is great stuff. TikTok users might not give a shit about a show like Austin City Limits. I'm not going to sit there for an hour and watch the same band play.
Yeah.
But if you're the kind of person who, wants to dig in and have a full meal rather than just a little snack.
Oh, I like that.
I think that it's a really good thing to have on TV.
I like that. So you mentioned this a little earlier. Willie Nelson was on the show recently. That was for its 50th anniversary episode, right?
It was to the day, the 50 years from the day that they taped the original pilot with Willie.
Oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
what was
It was
like,
pretty special.
Okay. I'm like, you got to tell me about that, because I'm just like, that is incredible.
Because now I work on Austin City Limits, and I run one of the two cameras that's right in front of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I was shooting Willie, doing the same shot that the camera operator on Saturday Night Live was doing way back then. And I'm not shitting you. Willie had tears in his eyes.
That man is a national treasure.
Willie is so much woven into the fabric of what Austin is.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky to have worked with Willie many times, and he's a wonderful person. All my interactions with Willie and everything I've observed, in a professional world, I think he's just a wonderful person.
Oh my gosh.
And a like you said, a treasure in terms of an artist. There's nobody plays and has musical ideas like Willie does. What he does with his voice, what he does with his guitar, to me is like really singular.
I heard that ACL now has launched guided tours of the Moody Theater that run six times a day and 7 days a week, and it's interactive.
I think you've always been able to tour the venue. And, they'd walk you backstage and they'd show you this is the control room and this is the big room where it all happens. But they've created what the impression I get is that it's a really interesting experience. It's not just this is the control room, look at all the monitors, here's a switcher that has a lot of buttons on it. But they apparently spend some time with the photos that are in the two lobbies on the mezzanine and balcony level. But there is a thing apparently where they've sort of mocked up the stage and created a virtual environment so that you can actually step out onto what feels like the stage and see the crowd cheering.
I love that.
I haven't taken the tour. I probably should do it someday so I can experience like what it's like to be at Austin City Limits. But it sounds like it's pretty cool.
That sounds cool. So I have a really important question, because you have a really specific lens. Is Austin still the live music capital of the world?
I don't know the rest of the world. I will say that I've never been anywhere where I've felt like, this competes with what I see in Austin. There's certainly scenes all around the world, but I still, when I talk to friends who live in other places, maybe have never been to Austin, they still seem to consider music to be the main thing they know about Austin.
Do you have a favorite show?
God, there's so many great shows. But I would say the one show that I came away from and was vibrating for a week because it was so great was John Baptiste a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on.
The room was so electric.
Yeah.
And, this is kind of a cliched thing, but he really brought the love.
Yeah.
And created what was almost like a tent revival feeling where everybody in the audience was lifted up.
That is correct. That is actually, yes.
But it was
genius. He's a genius.
I mean, it was a very moving experience. And in that case, I was shooting one of the two drummers for most of the show. But that feeling, that electricity was throughout the room. You couldn't not feel it. As it turned out, that drummer was a drummer that was hired just for the show.
Wow.
Who is a Texas musician.
Look at that.
Who I had actually worked with prior during COVID. She's the drummer for an Austin band called Sir Woman.
Yeah. Oh, I love Sir Woman. Yes.
Yeah. Lunar Ray.
What an incredible opportunity.
To play with John Baptiste as yes, no kidding.
Oh my God.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Oh man, that's incredible. I wanted to ask you, because I had one more question to ask you. And I just wanted to know if there's anything that you want to add about your experience these past 11 years working for ACL Live.
I would say I feel really grateful for the opportunity to be part of that show on multiple levels, right? It's a historic show. So if you were going to write the history of Austin City Limits, in the appendix, where they have the long list of everybody who's ever worked on the show, in very small type, my name would be there. You know, it's like a marker. I have very much enjoyed my time living in Austin. I have very much enjoyed the music that I've experienced in Austin, the friends that I've made, the experiences that I've had. And it's just, the fact that for a brief period of time, I got to be part of this.
Yeah.
I'm just really happy to have been a part of it. And my grandmother's really proud of me now.
I mean, look at that. Thank you so much for being here, Eric. This has been great.
It's been fun. Oh, thanks for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Austin City Limits and their interactive tour at the Moody Theater in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.